Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Don Webster, the school chair in Civil and Environmental Engineering, as I think everyone knows. So this morning, it's my honor to introduce the speaker for the Hyatt leadership lecture. This speaker series brings a distinguished leader to campus each fall and spring, so we do it both semesters, to share wisdom and insight to the school students and our broader community. It is made possible by the generous support of Kenneth Hyatt. Microphone going in and out, so maybe I'm going to move it a little closer so it doesn't do that. So Kenneth Hyatt was a 1962 grad of civil engineering, and he also got a master's in industrial management in 1966. And so he has, as I said, financially made this lecture series possible. So today's speaker is John Carroll. He's a 1977 graduate of our civil engineering program. He founded the 21st Century Engineers in 1989. That firm specialized in design, build, and construction management, civil and structural engineering services, as well as forensic engineering services. 21st Century Engineer clients were quite wide. Construction companies, property owners, developers, public entities, insurance companies, legal firms, all the way across the southeast of the United States, as well as Texas and the Caribbean. John has testified in numerous cases involving construction defects, fire and hurricane damage, termite damage, as well as administrative hearings. He has served as a property appraiser, a forensics evaluator for commercial and residential losses. And he's also been a speaker in industry conferences on building codes and insurance restoration. In 2020, in the year 2020, First Century Engineers was acquired by the international consulting firm J.S. Held. John served in that firm as vice president for forensics until he retired in 2023. So today, John and his wife, Tracy, who is here somewhere, I think, in the back, they live in Vero Beach, Florida, and he is the president of Carroll Holdings. They enjoy traveling and have taken several Georgia Tech Alumni Association trips, including to Africa as well as the Galapagos. He also has followed his wife's example, and he was elected to the Vero Beach City Council in 2022. And he's been using his engineering problem-solving skills in a little different context, but to help that city's government to operate well. So it's my pleasure to welcome him back to campus and back to civil and environmental engineering. And today, John will be sharing his wisdom regarding building an enjoyable and successful career. So please welcome John.
Thank you, Don. Much appreciated. Sounds like a hell of a guy, doesn't it? I get bored easy, so I do a lot of things. The reason I'm here is I'm failing at retirement. I'm failing. I mean, that's what the reality is. I got a 3-story vertical duplex being built in Central Beach and Vero Beach, where my old office was. I said, well, what am I going to do with this old office? I didn't want to rent it. So I said, let's just tear it down and build something new. So that's what I do. I've been doing it for a long, 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 long time. And I really enjoy it. But the, Philly Yellow Jackets, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to be back on campus. I haven't been in this room for 49 years. Looks a lot different. It was flat and went a long ways. But things change, so I'm excited about the future of Georgia Tech, future of your futures, individually as well as collectively. There's a lot of great things happening in engineering and construction. I know people are concerned about AI and the job losses and things like that. But with a Georgia Tech degree and you're in the right mentor, you can miss out on all of those problems. So, 49 years ago, I was sitting right where you are, not knowing what the future held, not knowing, how my degree was going to help me. And fortunately, I got hired pretty quickly because I had co-op experience from the city of Fort Lauderdale. And that's one thing, I've preached to my girls when they were growing up, you got to get experience. People want people that are wanting to work hard, but I also don't want to be the first person to train you. Because it costs a lot of money to train engineers. I mean, I'm not kidding you. We spent more money training engineers. And then what would happen? They'd spend 5 years with us, and I'd pester them, get your EIT, get your PE, get your EIT, get your PE. And then 5 years later, 5.5 years, they would come to me and say, John, you're a great guy and a great boss, but somebody else is paying me more money if I go over there. And that was, the problem of being a business owner is it's hard to keep up with the market when you're a small firm with especially with these guys that were coming in, buying out firms like mine, for instance, and paying a lot more money. I mean, as soon as they bought my firm, the salaries went up 20%. 20%. That's a lot of money in a small town like Vero, or our other office was in Fort Lauderdale. And, then the whole idea was they wanted to keep the individuals that were there because those are the people that the clients liked. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been in business. So that's why they were willing to pay that much money. I'm going to jump back a little bit. And, one of my last hires at 21st Century Engineering before I sold to JSL happened in 2018. And it was a guy named Harrison Bennett. Harrison Bennett is a great kid. He's a wonderful gentleman, and he's become a great engineer. But it didn't start out that way. He was a graduate of Auburn. He got his first job at a Birmingham steel mill, believe it or not. And he was drawing CAD drawings as his first assignment. And so that lasted about 6.5 months, and he was slow. He just didn't have the aptitude to be a CAD operator, nor did he have the understanding of the whole process, because he had never done any building analysis. They'd never done any type of structural analysis, load analysis. It was all Greek to him, and so he got fired, sat out for about 4 months, and then he answered one of our ads. We were looking for engineers. We were so busy after the hurricanes for the forensic side that we needed people quickly. And so I said, well, we were so busy, I interviewed him on a forensic engineering site during the day for lunch. And so he says, hey, do you mind if I stick around and watch you guys work? And I go, heck no, this is great. So he stuck around all day. He started helping out at the end. And I'm like, this guy has some ambition. I really believe this guy could work with us. So I hired him, and things went along. And of course, that EI needs to be assigned to a PE. So we had a couple of PEs in the Vero Beach office that didn't have an EI because they had moved on to another firm. And so he started working there under those guys. And one was a female, a lot more patience than the male. And the first 3 weeks were difficult because he would not ask for help, not ask, and it was very challenging. And so I sat him down, and these people are complaining he's not doing the job. They need to get rid of him. I'm not getting rid of somebody after 3 weeks. That's not even right. And so, make a long story short, he spent 2 months with me, and I'm a ball buster. I'm a hard worker, and I work a lot. And so he worked with me, and I trained him. And now, he's a good friend of mine. He's a Rotarian, and he came to Vero Beach last week. And I go, Harrison, I heard you just left JSL finally after 5 years. He goes, yeah, I was shocked. Somebody really wanted me. And I go, what do you mean by that? He said, John, I went there on a fly. I was happy with JSL, but if they were going to pay me a bunch of money, I'm ready to listen. And so they said, well, we can't hire you for much more money than you're making at JSL, but unless we give you an increase in responsibilities, you're going to have to be a manager. So Harrison's going, God, I was so excited. I'm sorry, but this is crazy. I was so excited that they thought enough of me to be a manager, to take on an EI and be responsible for that person and train them. It was wonderful. And I'm like, wow, this is touching to me. So we were sitting having breakfast on the ocean in Vero. Not a bad place. And it just struck me, wow, this is amazing that this kid in 2018, he would not ask for help. And then he comes to this point in his career, and now they're trusting him to be in charge. So we're doing something right. What I'm going to talk about today is going to talk about this path that I've done myself, and I've pushed others through. Our firm has spun off 11 engineering firms, 11 since 1989. That's a hell of a lot. And why does it do that? Because I don't have any problem doing it. I started my own firm myself. So I've been there. I know what it takes. And the fact that these individuals go through and they learn and they rely on themselves to go to the next level, that's something crazy. So at the end of our breakfast, he hands me a bottle of champagne and a card. And I didn't open the card till I got home. But it's a simple thank you card. We've all gotten these. Not this big usually, because $6.50. So it says, thank you. The words seem very simple, but they carry with them all my appreciation. John and Tracy, thank you for the opportunities you gave me in this life. Harrison, what more could a boss want? Man, it's a special thing. And I'm hoping that you guys will pay attention and learn something today. And now I'm going to mention one more quick story. This is a guy that I've mentored. He had already started his own firm, Vero Beach. I've used him. He's a fellow Rotarian as well. And he says, John, I feel like I'm not making any headway. I got 3 people. I've been in business 9 years. I've got 3 people and myself. I said, that's fine. It's not the size. Are you happy with the work you're doing? Do you enjoy your clients? And he's like, most of them. Well, fire those people that you don't like. Number one, you don't need the hassle because engineering is booming right now. Florida, you can't go anywhere without seeing cranes. It's amazing, the construction that's going on. So I said, Terry, the one thing I keep telling you is, if you want to have success in this career and you start your own firm, don't pay rent. Don't pay rent. Buy a building. Buy a building because the building is going to appreciate. You're going to get older. What's going to happen when you want to retire? If you get lucky and you have a good firm, a great firm, somebody's going to come knocking on your door and go, hey, this firm looks like a real deal. We want to buy you. And then the next thing you say is, are you going to keep my employees? Because that was the one thing that I didn't want to do, is not keep the employees. So we lost one employee, and the only reason we lost him was because he was on the construction administration and management side. And J.S. Held didn't want anything to do with all our design team, all our construction management group. They didn't want anything to do with it because of the liability. So, I mean, I get it. But so we lost one. But other than that, the firm went intact. So I said, Terry, buy a building. So after this interaction with Harrison on last Friday, Saturday, I run into Terry at a Rotary. We were doing a wing and beer fest. Not a bad thing. And we had like 6,000 people there in Vero Beach, which is a lot of people. And I said, so Terry, what's the latest on your firm? He goes, John, I couldn't wait to see you because I closed on a building yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, that is so wonderful. He says it's a but it's a building nonetheless. And it's going to take them 6 months, 8 months to build it up so that they can move into it. But so these are two individuals that I've mentored and having great things happening in their lives. So I think it's it's a testament to, listening to others because you don't know everything yourself. I mean, a lot of my pluses and minuses throughout the years has just been gut, had a gut feeling for different things and I've pursued those avenues. And I've always loved engineering, architecture, construction. And that's what I've worked in all my life. Unfortunately, my daughters didn't want it. They hated it, but they're very good at space planning now in their own apartments. So that's a good thing. So let's jump on the program here. So we're going to talk about, this is a 40-year site plan. Phase 1 is the foundation, of course. Phase 2 is the framing. Then, of course, 3 is ongoing professional services, kind of call it the bridge between the learning and the pinnacle, which is civic leadership. Civic leadership is probably, most rewarding of anything. We've preached this to our family, and our friends too. And I'm constantly looking as a city council person. I get to appoint individuals to boards, civic boards, airport, marina, really interesting places to learn about your city and the people around you. And, so I have dragged a bunch of friends through those boards and they learn, they really learn. So this is the difference between you and me. I was on that drawing board, when I first started my career in Houston, Texas. And now you guys are on the computer all the time. By a show of hands, how many have used a drawing board? One person. 2 people. Oh, it's the same hand. All right. Well, that's a great thing. Did you enjoy it?
It actually, yeah.
Did you use pen and ink on linen, or how did you draw? Or on Mylar?
Mylar, yeah.
Mylar, okay. Do you know what a Leroy set is?
No, I don't.
No? All right. Going too far. A Leroy set actually was an interesting thing. Actually had a straight edge on a big drawing board like shown here, and a T-square like the guy up on the left-hand side. And you had this template, and you took a stylus and you traced the letters. So you had perfect handwriting. So when the drawing was changed, it wasn't John Carroll's handwriting or your handwriting. It was the Leroy template handwriting. So everything looked beautiful. And then, of course, then you change it, and then you get somebody that's not as good on a Leroy set like me, and it looked like hell. But it was fun at the time. So today we're going to outline the blueprint of a career that doesn't just build structures, but enriches communities through service, mentorship, and a commitment to excellence. Let's go to the next slide. The foundation. Oh, and I also learned how to use AI over the last couple of years. So this is not me drawing this, but it was my concept, but the computer did it all. So your professional career begins as an analyst and junior consultant stage, where you focus on technical design and data collection and analysis. I began my career in Houston in the late 70s, designing large-scale subdivision, water and sewer plants, and treatment facilities, large drainage facilities. And this was for Turner Collin Braden, the largest engineering and surveying firm in Texas. I was the only Georgia Tech graduate there. I was hired along with 18 other individuals, all Aggies. And if anybody from Texas? 3 people, all right. You know what an Aggie is, right? They're very, very cowboyish to me, but I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. I had to trade my flip-flops for boots and the beach for the country. And it was a very difficult time for me. I didn't know anybody in Houston, but I took the chance. And I said, I had a job offer in Florida, but it was at the Space Center. I didn't want to do anything at the Space Center. Not that there is anything against it, but I wanted to be involved in building and construction and design. And the only opportunity I had was Texas was booming in the 70s, booming. And so I went there, and it expanded my horizons. I'd always heard about Texas, but I'd never really been there. So, it proved to me that I was able to navigate life's twists and turns, that I could survive on my own and actually flourish and get people to like me for who I was, although I was always picked on because I wasn't wearing boots. But I finally bought boots, and I still have them today. They're great. I actually did start liking them. Take a look at your hands. As engineers, we often think our work happens in a computer, but it really doesn't. What is the one thing a computer model can't show you at a construction site? Anybody? No questions? Huh?
Turn the bridge.
Yeah. How about the weather conditions? How about the number of people at the job site? Is that job site being fully manned, or is it not being manned? Are we going to be able to meet the deadlines? Are we going to not meet the deadlines, which angers the clients? You can't find that out by sitting in the office. You got to go out there and be there, be at the site. And I know some of you may not like that, but if you're in the construction and engineering business, that's where you're going to end up. In my early years at Turner Collin Braden, I realized that design is only as good as its execution. There was a lot of errors made, and a lot of the designs that I did early on. And of course, the contractors would say, it's the engineer's fault. We want more money, especially when we're working for the public sector, because the private sector doesn't put up with that. But the public sector goes, oh, well, maybe the engineer didn't write that specification so specific. Maybe we'll give you an extra. And that would drive me crazy because they're saying that I'm not doing my job. What's up with that? So this led to me to decide to do a dual credential career. I went ahead and got my PE, and I also got a state licensed general contractor's license. So that allowed me to control my whole destiny. I could design it, I could build it, and then ultimately I became a developer and I sold it. So I was making money on every single side of the equation. And it was really something that I thrived at because I love it. I mean, it's fun to create things. And then, when I go back to Fort Lauderdale 20 years later, a lot of the stuff that I designed and built is still there. Unfortunately, some of it's not because it was on a very expensive land. And the 2-story office buildings that we designed and built are now 7-story apartment buildings. I mean, it's highest and best use all the time. So ultimately, I became the architect of the plan and the foreman of the construction. So I knew at the end that what was being built was to my specifications, nobody else's. So the other thing that being your own boss allows you to do, it allows you the flexibility to decide what work you're going to be doing and who you're going to be doing it for. Because some people, believe it or not, I mean, a lot of people are probably in this room are from Georgia, but a lot of people in South Florida aren't that nice. That's the reality of it, So you want to pick your clients so you don't have headaches. We had one client, I'll slide off track real quick, it struck me, Dr. Zagaran. Back in the 2010, we were redoing an office building for him, and he's a doctor, of course. So a lot of technical details, a lot of electrical issues, a lot of plumbing issues. And so in construction, people take off the last 2 weeks of the year. I mean, you can't find people doing anything the last few weeks of the year in construction. So I said, we always close the office for a week. And I get a call where I forget where we were, somewhere, and with the family. And he calls me up and he goes, John, nobody's at the site. I'm like, Dr. Zagaran, it's 2 days after Christmas. He goes, everybody should be working. And I'm like, that's just not the way it works, And he could not understand it. He just didn't get it. I mean, he was cussing me up one side and down the other. Finally, I just said, Dr. Zagaran, I really can't handle this right now. And I hung up the phone on him. And he called me right back. And I picked it up. And he says, you're fired. I'm like, what? He says, you're fired. I'm like, okay, thanks. I'll see you on January 3rd. So I went back to his office on January 3rd. I had the construction crews with me, and he wouldn't let us in. And I'm like, dude, this is going to cost you so much money if you don't let us finish this. I mean, we're within 2 months of completion. If you fire me, I'm going to obviously pull my license, and you can't do any work. And he didn't understand it. Of course, his building got finished 7 months later. A friend of mine ended up becoming the replacement GC. But, that's this type of things you deal with. Let's go on to the next slide. Phase 2, the framing. This is the manager stage. This is the stage that Harrison's finally reached. He's missed the 5-year mark, but he's going to make it. I mean, it's obviously he's going to be a successful engineer. And also, I didn't mention, he also got his residential contractor's license and his PE. So when you're in the management stage, you got to start expanding your personal relationships. In 1985, 5 years after my own graduation from tech, I co-founded my first firm, which was ESPA Corp, which stood for Engineers, Surveyors, Planners, and Associates in Houston, Texas. Then in 1889, I decided I had enough of Houston. I sold out to my partners and moved back to Fort Lauderdale, started 21st Century Engineering and many other sister firms like 21st Century Design Build. And all those firms were developed to perform civil, structural, and forensic engineering and design build services. But we also got a one-off from our contacts in politics. We actually ended up designing a blast-proof embassy in Egypt, which was probably one of the coolest projects I've ever been on. But I never got to go to the job site, so that's unfortunate. By show of hands, how many of you thought about having your own firm or stepping into a world leadership role in a big organization? How many? Wow, quite a few. This is awesome. Well, you're at the right place. And I'll be more than happy afterwards to stay and talk to you. To reach this stage, communication is key. I mean, I'm sure that that's been told to you many, many times, but it is the most important thing. The one thing that I always looked at hiring engineers was not only were they technically competent, but can they communicate? And this was especially important when we were doing forensic engineering. You're going out to a site that's either, a large commercial site or sometimes an individual homeowner site. And you've got to be able to look that person in the eye and say, tell me your story. Tell me your story. Did a hurricane come through here and rip off this roof? Did your toilet overflow and your washer machine overflow all at the same time? Not likely. But you're taking the information down. Because ultimately, as Don said, I've done a lot of litigation. Ultimately, you could be sitting there talking to a jury and explaining to a jury, this person is lying, or they're not. If they're not lying, usually the claim gets paid and you don't go to trial. If they are lying and they persist in lying and they hire an attorney, then it goes to litigation. So you have to communicate. That person has to be a very good communicator and understand what that person is saying and make sure you take it down point by point. You need to make it glossy, just point by point thing, so that 2 years from now, when you're going to a deposition or you're going to trial, you have your notes and you can say, sir, this is what the individual told me, and that's what we wrote down. They changed their story. Of course they changed their story, but you have it written down. And the other thing that you need to be able to do is write. You have to be a good writer. And I don't mean of murder mysteries or anything of that sort. You don't have to be a creative writer. You can be just a technical writer. And I know, I just was talking to Don, I know those classes are available here in the civil engineering department. And it's super important that you can communicate via the written language. And I know you guys probably are used to doing, because I get texts from my girls that are both 30 and 31. I mean, just short, complete, that's nice, bullet point. But, technical writing, you have to have, here's your theory, here's your basis, here's your explanation, here's your conclusion. It's a step-by-step process. So it's super important. And, this is, I can't understate the importance of this. All right, let's go forward here. So the bridge. A lot of people don't want to be involved in technical services. They don't want to join groups. I get it. I didn't join a fraternity here when I was on campus. 70s wasn't as pushed on it as these days, it seems. But, that's one thing that I do regret that I didn't. Because once I started getting involved in different organizations, I realized how important they were for interacting with others, getting people other ideas, and also thinking out of the box. Because somebody that comes up to you and says something you never thought about before, you go, oh, hey, this could be important in my career. Move forward. But I mean, the ones that I support the most are these ones that are on the bridge, the ASCE, NSPE, and FES. They're great organizations. They've got the support of the professional engineers in mind, especially the National Society of Professional Engineers. The label says it all. They lobby for us as consulting engineers. And anybody that wants to own their own firm, you need to join NSPE because it gives you the legislative outlook for the future. Not that it doesn't change, but at least it's a start on a roadmap, because you're not going to want to start your firm in transportation, for instance, and figure that you're going to have all this work from FDOT or Georgia DOT, and then the feds say, oh, we're not going to fund those roads anymore. We don't have any money. We moved the money somewhere else. And then you start a firm based on transportation. Who's going to be your client? The cities don't have any money. Not that kind of money. I mean, we do repaving and, little bridges and things like that. But to run a firm based on that, it would be a bad time. So I really encourage you to belong to these organizations and give your time. Don't just belong. Don't be a member and never see anybody. Come to the meetings, interact with people. They're not scary. I mean, they're just like you and me. And it's really an important thing. This brings us to another important thing, community service. Community service, I can't tell you how much it's changed our lives, my family's life. We've been involved in Rotary since 1992. I was past president of the Fort Lauderdale Rotary Club and past president of Vero Beach Club, assistant district governor. My kids went out on international travels, international youth exchange, where they actually, my oldest daughter spent a whole 9 months in Calgary, in Italy, on the island, and 10th grade. And we were so confident in Rotary that we took that chance and put our girl over there. It's a big leap of faith, but it was worth it. It made her who she is today. She's an entrepreneur. She's raising money. She's been in the incubator. She's raised $1.5 million in the last 12 months. $1.5 million to start a firm. That's unbelievable. But where'd she get the guts to do it? By being placed over in Italy, and us having that belief in that system. So, I mean, there's a lot of, Rotary's not the only one. You got the Kiwanis, you got all kinds of organizations. And they're all they need, not only they need more people. They need young people. You got engineers, you're going to be a Georgia Tech graduate, you're going to have the toolkit to change communities. And these organizations do that. They change communities. Plus, the other thing is, how many people know people outside of the engineering world? Show of hands. Not that many, huh? The fact of the matter is, we get so myopic, we're concentrating on the things that we're doing, our projects, our friends who are people that work with us. If you join these organizations, you meet doctors, lawyers, still got to meet them. People of all walks of life, the guy that owns the sporting goods store, the Home Depot manager, all these people that you can get involved with, and they become your friends. We all work together. I mean, like I said earlier, we put on a big brew fest last weekend on Saturday. from 11:30 to 4 p.m. and raised 120 grand. 120 grand. But it was all of us working together to do that. And it's teamwork. And again, it just builds confidence. And it's the legacy, civic leadership. Since I was a kid, my mom actually was the city clerk of the city of Plantation, which is a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. She was there 30 years. And, of course, we heard about the city all the time. And the policemen, unfortunately, knew us. So the few tickets I got in my MGB riding around there, always my mom knew about them before I even got home. So it was good and bad about that. And I lost that car. My dad took it away because I got too many tickets. So it was a life lesson for me. But I've been involved on the civic side. I've been on the boards. I've been on the different commissions. And my wife, Tracy, in the back of the room, ran for city council back in the 2010s because she had an idea that Vero Beach didn't need to be in the electric utility business. Our costs were 40% higher than FP&L, and FP&L wanted us. We had 32,000 customers, which isn't a lot, but they wanted the control of the whole county. And it wasn't only affecting us as ratepayers, but it was also affecting how much the hospital was spending for electricity, how much the school board was spending for electricity, how much the sheriff's department was spending for electricity. It affected everybody. And finally, that happened. Vero Beach Electric was sold to FP&L, and everybody's joyous. But it took a long time. And the only reason I ran for city council in 2022 because, Vero's in my adopted town. We've been there for 22 years. And I wanted to see some changes made at the airport, at the marina, and at the old power plant that's been sitting dormant since 2016, 10 years. It's a beautiful piece of property on the Indian River Lagoon, huge piece of property. And there's a wastewater treatment plant. I wanted to get that wastewater treatment plant off of the lagoon because of the resiliency factor. And you guys know about resiliency, right? Okay. So all these things were coming there, and I'm like, John, you're an engineer, you're a contractor, you're a developer. This is right up your alley. Throw your hat in the ring. So the last hour of the qualifying period, I delivered my packet to the city clerk and I said, I'm going to run. And she almost fell off the chair. She goes, what? You can't run? Tracy was on council. I'm like, she was vice mayor, by the way, but it doesn't matter. It's a different world, So I put my hat in the ring and I've made those changes of, the airport now is got 3 carriers. In 2022, we had 0. The marina has been redone. We got a new boat storage place that doubled the capacity so we can rent out more boat slips, make money. And the Three Corners project, it's going to have a new marina. It's going to have 2 hotels. It's going to have 8 restaurants. It's going to be a sparkling gem on the Treasure Coast. And, I'm a little bit a part of that. I was able to, vote for all of those improvements that we were pushing forward. There was a group of us. So I can't do it alone. One thing you learn is you got to be able to count to 3 on the Vero Beach City Council because it takes a majority vote. And we have 5 people. So counting to 3 is super important. So think about the community that you're going to go to. Are you going to go back home and work Are you going to go out and spread your wings to try something new? Anybody? Go to a different area? Good for you. Good for you guys. I think that's the greatest choice because even though, coming to tech from Fort Lauderdale was a huge change for me, it was like even more immense change when I went to Houston, Texas, for sure. So, future graduates, as you take your first positions, do not aim for a promotion, aim for an impact. Engage and mentor. Join ASE, FES, ACEC, whatever. Just be involved. This is our profession. Who cares about our profession? The politicians don't. It's us. It's us engineers that care about the profession. And we live in it. We work in it. We need to make it the best we can. And service is the goal. Use your engineering toolkit to solve community problems and leave the world better than you found it. Your degree from Georgia Tech is the ultimate foundation. Now go out and build the road you travel and the bridges you cross. Ensure your designs are sound, your leadership is inclusive, and your contributions to your community is your greatest legacy. Go Jackets. Do I have time for questions or?
Yeah, the students are going to moderate it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the question and answer portion of the meeting. So we have me on this side, Taylor's on this other side. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and we can walk over to you.
My name is Brady Roulier. I'm a third year here at Georgia Tech for civil engineering. And my one question for you was, you took your engineering experience and then kind of grew that into a business mindset and then growing into a developer and having your own business. How was that change in using your technological experience from Georgia Tech and as an engineer and reading that into a business?
Well, I couldn't have done it without the Georgia Tech degree, obviously, because the first thing you needed was to become a professional engineer because you need to sign and seal your own documents. I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, I'm John Carroll. These documents are great. Can you sign them for me? Hopefully you would say no. But so having the PE was a relief. I mean, I told my two my niece and nephew are both engineers, and one is graduate is mechanical, one civil, and the older one has got her PE after much consternation. She finally got it in Texas when she was working for the Austin Airport Authority. But her younger brother, who's an FP&L engineer, hasn't gotten his yet. And I keep telling him, I said, David, this is one thing they can't take away from you unless you screw it up royally. You do something, kill somebody or something. I mean, having a PE is, it just gives you a license to have a job your whole life. I've CPEs that are signing trust drawings that are 85 years old and they have no idea what they're looking at. But that's why I trust drawings. The other day we had the building I was just talking about had two different trust drawings. One was approved, one was not approved. The contractor's out there, my subcontractor's out there laying it out, and he's going, these it doesn't lay out. One's 9-foot offset, the other's 6.5. I'm like, all right, this is crazy. This can't happen. So I looked at it. The 6.5 was the old drawing that we submitted to the city before we had the design finished, just so we could get some progress on the plan review. I said, throw that away. We're using the 9-foot one. But, it's just because I've been in the business 40 years. I knew that. So get a PE. Get a PE. God, was this good? Oh, there's one in the back. Back center.
What?
Hey,
Hello? I don't know if this works. Anyway,
yeah.
what would you say for any non-traditional students or anybody who's starting a little bit later than their 20-year counterparts when talking about things like a 40-year plan? Like, would you say age is just a number, or is there a lot of additional obstacles that you'd have to overcome in order to compete with somebody half your age?
I mean, I've seen people that have come in and graduated from engineering school that have been 35 years old. We had one guy worked at our Vero Beach office, Randy. Randy actually did a stint in the Navy, an 8-year stint in the Navy, and because he was from Illinois, and his parents didn't have any money. And he said, well, if I go through the Navy, I can get my school paid for. So he came to work for us after the 04 hurricanes, 2004, 2005. And he was actually working as a carpenter. He was a great carpenter. And one day he comes up to me and says, John, I really want to work in the office. I'm like, really? You're a great carpenter. He goes, I love working with my hands, but I really want to be an engineer. I'm like, wow, you're kidding. He says, no, this is my dream. I want to be an engineer. So we brought him into the office, and he started, he had done like 18 months or 20 months at various schools during his career. And so he enrolled at UCF, and we worked out a plan where, if he couldn't get classes at certain points during the week, that we would go ahead and allow him to work on the weekends to make up the time. So he would work, he may be there 3 days a week in the office and then work Saturday and Sunday, to make up for it. And he graduated. He resigned. Could have foretold that one. He resigned. He moved to Orlando with his family, and he ended up getting a master's. And he got his PE license. And the reason as a PE that they get their PE license, because they need you to verify their experience. So, I keep track of all these guys. So I don't think it's a hindrance at all. As long as you want it bad enough.
Hello, my name is Pace. I just was going to ask, who's your best mentor and why?
Who's my best mentor and why? That's a tough question. Can I say me? I would say probably one of the first partners I had. He was probably my best mentor. Because he was 20 years older than me. He had worked for a lot of big firms in California and Texas. And we met at Blum Engineering, which is a firm that I was with immediately before I started ESPA So he and I and 2 other partners started ESPA a planner. He was an engineer, myself, and 2 others were engineers. And Pete Blum is his name, and he as a big firm. And we would nice guys. We want to be treated equally with the big firms, the Turner, Cully and Braid, the Johnson Engineering. Those guys, we consider those competitors. Of course, they didn't consider us competitors, but we surprised them because we went and he was willing to spend a lot of money to be the first engineering firm in Houston, Texas in 1981 to have in-house CAD capabilities. So we spent, I think the computer was $130,000 and the software, AutoCAD software, was like $50,000. So we've had $200,000 invested for one station. One station. So I would say Pete, because he was willing to learn and listen to us younger guys. I was the youngest by far. I was pretty young and thought I knew everything. And he would rein that in a lot. But treating your firm like it's a big firm, doing the accounting, the project management software, doing all that stuff like a big firm made us get into these big firm areas. You know, and when we billed, they didn't say, we didn't get an invoice from QuickBooks. You know, I mean, it was a big thing. I'd say Pete. Yes. Hi.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm a fourth year civil engineering student. I just have a question about starting your business. So what advice would you give someone who is wanting to start their own business one day? Or what are some steps you could take, I guess, during school or maybe immediately after graduation that you think would set you up for success later on?
Well, I think the most important thing, if you're going to start, a civil engineering firm, would be to work in a large firm and get some experience. See how things are done in a large firm. Going back to that same answer, because I know a lot of people that have done it successfully and did it as a 1, 2, 3, 4 person firm. But if you want to have 20 people, 30 people or more, I don't suggest going more. We did that once. It was it's terrible. Too many firms. We had too many firms I bought, and it was too much. Too many personal problems, with other people. But if you want to do that, I'd say learn in a big firm and try and climb the ranks of the management till you get your PE. And then once you get your PE, I would suggest that you find somebody that's compatible with you so that the two of you can jump off together. Because it's so much better to have somebody to commensurate with than trying to make all the decisions yourself. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. I mean, the second firm I started, 21st Century Engineering, I started with my best friend, actually, from Fort Lauderdale. He was an advertising manager from the University of Florida, believe it or not. And I wanted him to do the marketing because I felt that I wasn't that, how would you say this? Amenable to bringing in business. I didn't think I had that capabilities at that time. I was shy. I mean, like a lot of engineers, they're shy. They don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to fail. That's the other thing. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, I've failed. I told you I failed at retirement. That's why I'm here. But, don't be afraid to fail because everybody makes mistakes. I mean, sometimes you get, a project that overwhelms the team and you got to go and say, we're going to have to hire somebody to help us get through this thing. Like that, I told you that in Egypt, we didn't have the knowledge or experience to design a blast-proof building. I mean, what the hell? It wasn't something that, they taught us at Georgia Tech. But, we went out and found somebody that had done a similar building and said, hey, help us out. So I would say it'd be better if you had that basic background and then maybe somebody, a friend or a colleague that you pick up from there. I mean, that's how Pete and I ended up starting a firm. I mean, we got thrown together just haphazardly and, worked out. Anything else?
Sorry, looks like we have to end the Q&A session now, but
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm here. You know what I look like. I'm more than willing to talk to anybody. And thank you for the opportunity. It's been wonderful.
Mr. Carroll, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really appreciate all of your insights. On behalf of CEE, I would like to present this gift to you as a token of our appreciation.
You know you're off camera. You have to do it on this side.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Great. For those of you that RSVP'd, we have lunch in the lobby, and John will be having lunch with a few students as well over in SCV. So if you are signed up for that, we'll look forward to seeing you. So please enjoy lunch, and let's thank God one more time.